Good afternoon, Facebook. It is Thursday, and welcome to Live from the Source. My name is Stephanie Zinnerman, and I'm a Bed-Stuy resident and currently running to be the next assembly person for the 56th Assembly District, representing Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. Each week, I connect with a different industry expert to talk to them about vital topics affecting our community. Some of these topics come from my head or things that I'm experiencing, but a lot of them are topics that you have wrote to me and said that you are concerned about and want to know about. So today I am so happy to welcome to our group Mr. Bob Bryant, who is a licensed clinical social worker. And we're going to be talking about how we maintain our mental health during this COVID-19 crisis. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And for those who are with us for the third time, we definitely want to say thank you to you and thank you for supporting this opportunity to connect people together and get them the information that they need. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. I hope if the topic and the opportunity to talk directly to someone who can provide you with salient resources is why you are here. Before we get started, I do want to have a brief moment to, of course, send our heartfelt condolences to all community members, Brooklyn, actually at this point, the world, who have lost a loved one to this horrible, horrible virus. Daily, we are receiving phone calls from multiple people who have experienced a loss and who are struggling to honor and bury their loved ones during this difficult time. So please accept our prayers of comfort. And we are here as a community to support you in any way that we can. For those people who are healing, we are so happy that you are in recovery from this disease. I want to give a special shout out to Reverend Gwen Dingle, who I understand now is off the ventilator. As you all know, she is a stalwart in this community, the pastor of the House of Pentecostal on the Nostrand Avenue. She is the member of the 79th Precinct and Council. She is the head of the Clergy Council, and she is on our advisory committee for the Age-Friendly Neighborhood Initiative of Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. So, Reverend Dingle, we love you. We are so happy that you are in recovery, and we just want to send prayers of hope and healing for everyone. It is possible to heal from this disease, and we want to do whatever we can to make sure that people are healing. So we are going to get right to the topic at hand, mental health in the age of coronavirus. And just from the opening, we know that those of us need as much support as we can to get through these days of social distancing and social isolation. So, Ms. Bryant, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you could just start out by telling us a little bit about what you do in your role as licensed clinical social worker, and just what it is to be a part of the Bedford-Stuyvesant community and being able to provide services and support.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I really do appreciate the opportunity to share my experience with you professionally, personally, and just for you reaching out. I'm really honored to have even the opportunity to do this. I am at work today, so I have my mask on. I work in a hospital, so bear with me if I look away. Somebody might knock on the door, but thank you again for the opportunity. So yeah, I'll start with I'm a lifelong resident of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, literally all of my life. My mom was born and raised in Brooklyn. My great-grandfather came to Bed-Stuy in the early 40s and bought property that now serves literally as a haven for my family, where we live and where we feel safe. So again, my roots are deep in Brooklyn. So some of the work that I have done has also been directly in my community. So just a little bit professionally, when I got my LCSW, I actually started working in after-school programming, coordinating an after-school program and running like crisis intervention groups and things of that nature. I then moved on and actually worked at Interfaith Medical Center.
Okay.
For almost 8 years. I did about 3.5 years in the continuing day program that was there, which was a phenomenal experience. CDT, as we called it, from the Bedford Avenue Men's Shelter, in there for many years, and was definitely a safe place and like a family for, I mean, almost 100 probably mentally ill men and women who came there daily for mental health treatment, services, psychotherapy, behavioral types of therapy, for nursing care, for medication, for groups, but it was truly a family. Unfortunately, the state began to phase out continuing day programs.
Mm-hmm.
But they really did serve as a place of stability for so many people who had severe mental illness for so long. From continuing day treatment program, I then moved into the outpatient clinic in the Interfaith Hospital on Atlantic Avenue, where, again, being right in the middle of my community, walking to work, being 5 or 6 blocks from home, it was a good feeling. Sad in some ways, because I saw friends of parents of friends come in, for assistance and for intake. So sad in that way, that our community I really saw was directly impacted, but rewarding in the fact that I got a chance to see people who I saw growing up, and now being in a position to serve them and really help walk them through their mental health journeys. An example, there's a woman who is in a sister church to mine, and we fellowship about twice a year. I actually met her for the first time doing her intake and was assigned as her therapist.
Wow.
Whoever knew that a couple of years down in our journey, right, we would be seeing each other in church and fellowshipping with each other. So, really rewarding experiences. Yeah. So I'll say, from direct care and direct practice, doing that kind of work, psychotherapy. There, I did some part-time work with another organization where I got a chance to provide therapy to a Hasidic Jewish woman, which was a real experience. Just culturally, the cultural differences between us, but really seeing how mental health impacts that community as well, and the needs that were there that we don't even know about, because some things are kept so private, so really
similar to
eye-opening
our community.
experiences. And I love direct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Things that we don't talk about, outside of our front doors and even inside of our homes, that we don't always talk about, and have been shamed to talk about for so long. And from there, I did that for about 8 years. And then I moved into more administrative roles, doing some incident management and looking out. I'm sorry, Stephanie, I should have put my phone on airplane mode. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Just looking out looking at incidents that were coming in, and being in a position where I could ensure that clients in multiple programs in an agency were getting proper treatment and were safe in the treatments that they received. From there, moved into quality management, which I do now in a hospital setting. And again, really having a position where I'm able to make sure that patients are getting the care that they need in a safe environment, that it is the highest quality of care based on national standards, reviewing charts, making sure that staff are really doing what they're supposed to be doing according to the standards that have been set, again, from national all the way down to facility policies. So I'm thankful that I've been able to do a little bit of everything, I feel like, in my career. And I'm at a good place now.
That is great. I do want to follow up on something that you mentioned, especially as I take this journey to work as a state employee, well, a state elected official. I was a state employee. Why did the state make the decision to start to phase out those vital mental health services?
So interestingly enough, from where I sat in that role, when you're not in an administrative role, you don't sort of the answers, right, to what's going on, and you just kind of go with the flow. Okay, by design in the state and things like that. The reimbursement rates for that type of care were beginning to decrease. And the state was starting to look at more of a recovery-oriented model, which looks at not keeping people sort of in day treatment type of programs for all of their lives, but really looking at a model where we're focusing more on their recovery, where if they can return to work, getting them some type of work. Maybe they can be involved in more hobbies and, and sort of volunteer things outside of just being in therapy every day. So the mode of treatment was starting to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in that, a number of CDTs, if not all now, I'm not sure, were phased out. Yeah. And what we saw in that, I will say, just from that experience, is that the people who really needed that program the most, if you look probably now, even 3 years when I talk to coworkers, I began to hear that a number of our patients died, and we really attributed that to not having the everyday support that they needed. It was literally coming in and a nurse every day making sure they went to medical appointments, a doctor every day making sure that they took medication, checking in on their mental health, sitting them in groups and having them socialize, and when that's removed,
peer support is
from
important.
Someone's daily life, the outcomes are not good. Absolutely. It's crucial. It's crucial. Just like essential workers are on the front line, those programs are essential to people who are struggling, dealing with severe mental health issues.
Absolutely. So when we think about the fact that 1 in 5 adults in New York City have some sort of mental illness, ranging from the very mild, looking at just maybe anxiety, to the very severe bipolar disorder, and others. What shape are we in? We've lost some essential programs on the state level, and now we see these very stark statistics. What's the real diagnosis of where we are right now as a city in need of mental health professionals?
The need for mental health professionals is endless. If there are people watching who have family members who are like, what do I do with my life? And I love people and I want to help people. Mental health is an area that is always in need of people to serve these communities. Without knowing the exact numbers, like you said, 1 in 5, there really is a broad range of what that 1 in 5 can look like. Like you said, it can be someone with a very we're not looking at all severe mental illness, right? We're looking at, because I don't want to minimize someone with depression as opposed to someone with schizophrenia. I don't want to compare those two because they impact people way differently. But when we do look at the range, the number of those with severe mental illnesses, your schizophrenia, the paranoid types, the bipolar disorders with different psychoses, those are less actually in the population than those who are with depression and anxiety. So if we were to sort of parse those out into 2 separate groups almost, I think a lot of what we see in our communities and just even on social media and in our own circles and families are those who are struggling with anxiety, those who are struggling with ongoing depressive symptoms, even if it's not a major depressive disorder, those who are dealing with post-traumatic stress and stress-related disorders, and I really feel like that is the majority of the people who are really not getting treatment. I'm glad to say that I feel like in the generation now, even in people in their 30s, 40s, even 20s, that therapy is now more openly talked about, like in our girlfriend circles. There's less shame now about getting therapy. But like in the age-friendly group, right, it still is almost taboo to talk about those things because those generations weren't raised where you take your problems outside of your household.
Exactly.
So there are so many ways to look at it. For those with severe mental illnesses, like I said, we've lost our continuing day treatment programs, but there are programs for recovery orientation that may not suit everyone, and there's almost never enough, right? And reimbursement is difficult. So there's almost never enough of those things who keep people off the streets who really do need daily support. So we're lacking. And again, it's so different. It's so different. When I used to take the train to work, I see ads on the train for virtual therapies now, right? Talkspace. And you have the Olympic swimmer, he's on the ad for this virtual sort of therapy, or text your therapist, and you can text to talk and things like that. So those things are publicized and they're available, but I think we're lacking on the other end. You know, when somebody is discharged from an inpatient psych unit, where do they go? You know,
Yes.
are we putting them into a program that's looking at work, knowing that they're not capable of working, you know, and that
Mm,
they just need somewhere to be because it's safe for them every day? How do we
mm,
look at paying for something like that? You
yes.
know, when we look at people with severe, and I don't even think they call it severe and persistent mental illness anymore, but those persistent mental illnesses where you were diagnosed at 20 with schizophrenia, and now you're 75 with schizophrenia, how do we treat those people and have insurances continue to pay for lifelong treatment because they
Right.
need it?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
there's two things that I want to follow up on that you
Hmm.
mentioned when you talked about most people are suffering from some sort of anxiety and or trauma. And so I'm going to ask this direct question because we're both, you
Hmm.
know, African American females.
Yes.
How is the reason that our community is impacted greater or in larger numbers to some extent because of the persistent and systematic racism we've been exposed to in this country? Or are there other socioeconomic factors that also contribute to maybe our being more anxious or more depressed or other because of the trauma?
I think in the Black experience period, we can never minimize our history, you know, in this country. And I think that will continually have an impact on our mental health generations and generations to come because, because
Somebody's
specifically
not.
as Black women,
Hmm.
you know, we bear the brunt of being the strong Black woman, right? And being able to attribute, looking at our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and saying they were strong women. They raised the babies. They took care of the home. In 2020, that's not always okay. You
Right.
know, it's not okay for us to bear the burden. It's a badge of honor to
Hmm.
be a strong Black woman, but
Hmm.
it definitely is burdensome. And I think when we can admit that that can be burdensome, that we bear the load of our family and our friends, we carry their emotions on us. You know, we take on, you know, so many single parent households, of course, things like that. And in our neighborhood, you know, looking at Bedford-Stuyvesant, although it is being gentrified, there is still the core of that community where we have single parent households and people living at or below the poverty line, you know, and that continues to persist.
Yes.
So I think there's just so many facets in why our community experiences it at a higher rate.
Hmm.
But again, we definitely carry the load. You know, not being able to always say that can lead to depressed mood, to sadness, to feeling overwhelmed. And
Right.
even though those things may be a simple emotion, when they're not tended to, now
Mm.
you have somebody who's overwhelmed for 3 months, you know,
Mhm.
who doesn't want to communicate with someone for 3 months, who's angry,
Mhm.
who that sadness now turns into anger or resentment. You know, we began dealing with these things because now we're raising children in these homes. So
Right.
they're coming up under this, all of the stress that's causing, you know, emotional weight and breakdowns. So,
In absence of funding right now, because I'm calling for a moral budget where we put healthcare, we put housing, we put education, and we put economic opportunity in the budget first. Let's fund those
mhm.
four things first, and then we can see what else we can add based on. But I just for me, we cannot continue to say that we don't have money for essential services. I think we're in a space right now that we understand how important those four things are. And while we
Yes.
have this pause, the power of this pause, as I've been saying to folks,
Mm,
then let's utilize it. Let's not miss this opportunity. We're in this for a reason. Let's figure out the reason and let's use it so that we come out stronger and better. And one of the things I think that we have to do is make different decisions about how we take care of each other. That is just
yes.
essential to us as a human race, you know, not
Yes.
even just race of people, a human race. And so, coping. How are you coping? How should we be coping? I was on a national call last night with the NAACP civil life member, and Ayanna Van Zant was on. They invited her to come to give some words of encouragement because we were talking about some really heavy subjects, where we were medically
Mm,
in terms of COVID, where we were with our prison and our homeless population in terms of COVID, where we were economically, educationally. So she was there to give some feel good tips in order to keep people centered in what could we be focused on at this time. So that's Ayana. I'd like to know, because we're both members of the sandwich generation.
Yes.
We have a child, and we have our parent, and we
Mhm.
and we are responsible for care. So what are some of the things that you do to just keep Tabora together and able to slap her pearls on and her best heels and go to work?
Right. It's hard. It's hard every day because we are dealing with something that we never even imagined, right? It'd be different if we could, if we even imagined that we could have been in this place at this time. I think it would even, be easier. But this is just unthinkable that we're here, that, this has become a part of our daily outfits,
Right.
when you leave out the house. Like this, it's just unimaginable. But I'm very much rooted in faith, in my faith in God and Jesus Christ. I'm very much rooted in that. So that but I will say this, even with that, I think we have to really allow ourselves permission to mourn, right? The loss of normalcy, to
Mm.
mourn the loss of so many of our community members, our neighbors, our friends, our church members, our family. We have to allow ourselves that grieving space, because although there is power in the pause, absolutely. I think the thing that hits us the hardest is that the loss of economic status and financial stability. We have to be okay grieving that. And whatever healthy way you're able to grieve, that's important, I think, to do first. I've seen something on social media where almost judging people, like, if you don't come out of this with a new skill and with this, then you've wasted your time. Well, no, I may not be strong enough or focused
Yeah,
enough to do that.
exactly.
And that's okay.
Hmm.
To want to lay in your bed and sleep and cry for a couple of hours. Don't do it all day.
Right. Hmm.
But we just
Give
have to
yourself
be kind
permission.
to ourselves.
Yes.
Yes, we have to be really gentle with ourselves. We have to be really gentle with people we love and people who we don't know, and don't love. We got to be gentle with them too. Like you said, this is a crisis of humanity.
It is.
It really is. But for myself, again, I'm very much rooted in my faith. I make sure now that in the morning I read whatever Bible plan I'm reading. I'm
Bible
praying,
plan. I
like,
got my daily
yeah,
meditations and affirmations.
yeah.
Hmm.
I told somebody the other day, before this, we were praying because we love God and we talk, but we are praying now from a place that is so different and so desperate, that our prayers, I believe, are hitting heaven differently, so we're not going to preach, because I know there are people out there who may not be, believers in Jesus Christ, and that's fine.
Yes.
But again, allow yourself permission to be sad, but also have a plan. I can mourn. My grandmother used to say, you give something 3 days, and after that third day, you get up, you put on your big girl pants, and you go on about your business, and you do
Come
what you
on
need to
now.
do.
Hmm.
So give yourself time. But in that, she's 90, Lord, how old? She was born in 1913. 1921. She would
Lord.
kill me to say that publicly, but
Yes.
she's still with us, thank God.
God
Um,
bless.
but yeah, yeah. But that, if you use meditate, find quiet time to really ground yourself in whatever your plan is for the day. And I feel like we've learned from this also that tomorrow is not promised, right? Tomorrow can look completely different. If we knew it before, we sure about it now.
Yes.
That I'm sorry, I'm getting a knock on the door, and it was a
Okay.
hard knock.
It was a hard night too.
Wait,
So
give me one second.
okay.
Can I put you on hold for
Oh,
two
you
seconds?
absolutely
Can I
can.
hold?
Yeah. You can put us on hold.
Oh,
That is
I,
great.
I think we're okay.
Take
I
your
think
time.
I no, I'm here. I'm here. I
Okay.
think we're
Okay.
okay. I'm
Good,
sorry.
good, good.
Um, but be gentle with one another. If you meditate, do that, ground your, even if you can't think past the end of the night, plan what you want to do that morning when you wake up, and
Mhm.
just judge yourself by that day, or measure yourself, I should say, by that day. Don't put too many expectations, on yourself for other people right now. Do what you can for yourself and for those you love. Keep in touch, be supportive. There's all sorts of apps and things like that we're using these days, FaceTime groups and Hangout
Zoom.
and Zoom and House
Yeah.
Party that I just got told about recently.
Oh, yes.
But use those
Be
things to
nice.
stay connected. WhatsApp, to see each other's faces. Yeah.
Yeah.
And take care of yourself. Even I will admit, I'm a person, I want to drink a Pepsi every day. But in this crisis, I've learned to boil my look, I'm really serious. I boil my oranges, my lemons, my lime peels. I add some garlic, some fresh ginger, and I
Yeah.
drink that twice a day. Some vitamin C
Yes.
powder,
Mm-hmm.
and really just trying
Echinacea.
to focus on being better physically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Echinacea, elderberry, all of those. I'm sorry about that now. It kind of took my mind away a little bit. My apologies.
That's okay. That was a good section because I'm with you. Allowing yourself to grieve, like a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to feel bad, right? Because you have, especially if you're a mom or especially if you're caring from other people, you don't have time to feel bad because you have to take care of X, Y, and Z. You have to present that front. You have to be strong for everybody else, right? But we know what the treatment is first, right? Put your mask on first. And whatever that mask is for you, like now we have a physical mask, but whatever it is for you, I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm waking up to a line of sisters that are sending me a affirmation, a biblical verse, something that we can share and motivate us to get out of the bed. I play one or two songs that are my go-tos that can get me going no matter what. But those things are so important. And even if you go in the room and say it out loud and say, God, I can't do this, or I just can't do this.
Yes.
Right? Get that all out. So then you can do what you need to do. You cannot go through the day holding all of that in at all. We all need to. So I love the fact that you said to grieve, to have a plan. One of the things that Ayana said yesterday, she's like, I get in the shower, get dressed, put on a full face of makeup and some heels, and then I look in the mirror and say, where you going, girl? Right? But that gets her in a frame of mind, and then you can go out to your day. I don't have as much about that to worry because I'm every day that there is like a list of things that I'm still trying to get to. So I'm trying to play catch up in some areas. But even in that, I have figured out a time to unplug from the social media, say a prayer for some folks that have left here or who are still struggling with this virus, and drinking something, tasty or healthy, cooking something. I'm doing a lot more cooking now. And those are things that are, a part of the plan, taking the stuff out from the freezer, doing whatever I need to do to kind of help with the plan. But also doing a lot of plan with community about what does social norms look like post-COVID, right? And for people who can't go that far, right, and start to be a part of a larger conversation about what we look like in the future, I said this to my girlfriend. She was like, we got to do this, we got to do this. I said, no, we don't. I said, this is the elephant that we are facing, and we can only do it one bite at a time. So let's just not try to have the answer for everything.
That's right.
Do what we can and comfort ourselves when when things don't go right, and just kind of put the next steps forward. I love to be gentle with people. I say that with people all the time. All of my millennials out there know I say that all the time. There's first time in history, there are 5 generations operating in society at the same time. So everybody's got a different framework.
That's
so we got to be gentle with each other. That is absolutely good too. And then touch base with your circle. This has been a blessing to be able to do this. The Age Friendly group is meeting on a weekly basis virtually. We're doing, there's all sorts of wonderful things that people are doing, sending messages to the first responders. I mean, I just absolutely love it. I think all of those things are just really great advice for people. And we're going to put them up. We're going to, write them up and share with people. And just, even if you make yourself a nice little pretty square, and it could be your virtual what's the thing we do at the beginning of the year when you make
Oh,
you set your
um,
goals?
the
Oh
vision
my
board.
goodness. The
The vision
vision
board.
board. Yes. It could be a vision. This is your COVID vision, right? You know, what is your hope for yourself and your family when you come out of this? And then write those goals down and work toward it. And whatever works for you and your family, it would definitely be good.
Yes. Yes.
So are there any other tips for community that you would like to share?
Yes, it just came back to my mind. Something that I know I have done is I am literally trying to create for myself a bubble of positivity, right? I want to keep myself literally in a bubble of positivity because there is so much negative going on around us right now. So again, the loss of family and friends and neighbors and not being able to mourn them in a way that we're used to is devastating to me. So I'm trying my best to keep myself encapsulated in positivity. And a piece of what that looks like and what I would advise people, and I would tell patients all the time dealing with depression, is turn off the television from things that constantly are flashing negative images for you. If something is too much for you, turn it off. Don't say, oh, I need to look, I need to read it. No, you don't. Because guess what? They don't have all the answers about COVID. They're not going to have them tomorrow, and they're not going to have them next month. So every single day, flooding yourself with the numbers of people who are dead, the numbers of people who are on ventilators, that does nothing but drive us deeper. It's informative. Don't get me wrong. We need information.
Absolutely.
But if you are a person who is sensitive to that information, it is not the channel you need to be watching. Turn it off, put on some music, dance, do whatever it is in your kitchen, but really try to encapsulate yourself these days in positivity. What I had started doing at one point, and I don't watch the local news anymore, or hardly any news at all.
Yeah.
What I had started doing at one time is every time they would give the number of deaths, I would literally get a pen and paper and do the calculations for the number of people who were living with it. So you give me the total number of cases and the total number dead. I then want the reverse. I want the numbers who are living, because, and
The
that's not to
bubble of
ignore.
positivity.
It's not to ignore the truth of what's going on around it, but I want the other side, and that we're not going to get that from the news. So sometimes you have to create that for yourself.
The bubble
So
of
that
positivity. Yes.
encapsulate yourself in positivity. Yes, definitely.
Wow.
And I reached out to some people who are still doing direct therapy, and I was actually on a great call for a panel yesterday that some of my friends were on. And if this is being recorded, I just kind of want to run through some resources that people can use in this time. And it's going to be kind of quick because I got to go. But 311 is a phenomenal resource. There are a number of resources, even for people experiencing domestic violence, because we know all of these things are going to increase at this time.
They are.
Unfortunately, so 311. There's also something called Talk Space. There is an app called Abide, ABIDE. There's another app called Headspace.
Yes.
There's a website, therapyforblackgirls.com. There's another website, Boris L. Henson Foundation.org, and that's BORISLHENSON Foundation.org.
Okay.
Interfaith Medical Center. I know in our community we have stories about Interfaith, but Interfaith has a strong mental health outpatient program. There are clinicians there that I worked with years ago who are still there. They are doing virtual intakes and providing virtual telemental health services. The phone number is 718-613-4486. 718-613-4486.
Yes.
And then there's another agency called the Institute for Family Health. They are also providing virtual telemental health services. Their number is 718-822-1818.
Yes.
And then there is Catholic Charities, Brooklyn and Queens, who was my last employer where I love to work for. I was there almost 8 years as well. And I
Okay.
believe their number is 718
Mm-hmm.
722 6000. And they are feeding, the elderly and have different programs going on as well. So I just wanted to share those things just as some hard takeaways that people, can use if they need them. And I hope they're helpful.
They are. This is a plethora of information, and I thank you so much for this. I know you have to go, but can we
Yes.
sneak in one last question about our children?
Yeah. Okay.
They
Yes. Yes.
are, they are, they are a little stressed out around this remote learning program, those who have access. And then you have some who are living in homes with people who are recovering and they're fearful of catching it. Anything we want to say to parents to to help their children during this period? Or is it just best that they get connected to these resources as soon as possible that you provided with us with today?
I would say get connected. I have a 4-year-old who's getting ready to be 5. She's also on remote learning. And I know it's thank God for my mother who's doing and her dad who's doing remote learning. But it can be stressful. But that's a really good opportunity for them to stay connected with their peers.
Yes.
Even if you have children who are not in school, but they have friends, the same
Mhm.
way adults are connecting on virtual parties and virtual calls, allow them to do that. Allow them to see family who love them and can talk to them.
Mhm.
One way I explained it to my daughter, with the whole mask, and I wear a mask still when I go home and talk to her. I'm in the environment every day. I don't want to be an asymptomatic at
Sure.
this point carrier and pass
Mhm.
it to her, and she passed it on to my mother, who she spends most of her time with. We had to talk about the virus and it being a germ that if you get the virus, then you can pass it to this many people, and then people can be sick. I think talk to them in their terms.
Tell the truth. Right.
Yeah, tell the truth,
Mhm.
on their level. It's scary and it's different. She wants to know why we can't go to the restaurant, you
Right.
know. And she
Mhm.
asks me every day, "Are you sick, mommy?" And I have to say, "No,
Mhm.
baby, but I need to wear this so that you don't get sick."
That's it.
We have to take care of each other.
Mhm.
Um, for people, I have girlfriends with toddlers, and thankfully they're able to work from home, so they're there, but it gets overwhelming, the kids all over the place. I have girlfriends who are in those situations now, but if your children are big enough to monitor themselves for a little while, like you said, go in the bathroom, close that door, take
Mhm.
a moment. If you have a partner who lives with you and you are in the home together and you have children, make your needs known. This is not the time to be shy about what you want.
Mhm.
I need an hour. These kids driving me up a wall. If
Exactly.
you don't get these kids and take them in that room, uh, it ain't gonna be
Yes.
nice.
Exactly. Exactly. All of us
But
gonna be messed up. Yes.
we all gonna be messed up in here.
Mhm.
But it's a time to really we have nothing to lose from open communication at this point in time. We
Absolutely.
have nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
The
And
big
you can't
scary monster.
hide. You can't hide in the house together.
You can't, so we have to really raise our communication skills at this point. But again, if you're home and you're overwhelmed, please call one of those numbers and get somebody to talk to. Please. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure if everybody was in the room with us, they would give you a round of applause.
Oh,
And thank you
thank you.
so much for
Thank
the
you.
work that you are doing as a first
Thank
responder,
you. Thank you so much.
for just the service to our community over the years and just continuing to be a resource to families and individuals in this time of need, but just during this, just
Yeah.
being a member. So thank you so very much.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I look
Thank you. I
forward
appreciate it.
to talking to you in the future because we have a lot of work to do because we have to make sure that we have funding for mental health services for our community.
Absolutely.
All righty, my
Absolutely. I'm
dear.
here if you need me. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Travel safe,
Okay.
be well, and
Thank
stay
you.
safe. All righty.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care. It's
you.
been good. Bye
All
bye.
righty. Bye bye. And that has been live from the source. We were talking to licensed clinical social worker Tabora Bryant, Bed-Stuy resident, and just phenomenal spirit. We want to just thank her again for her words of wisdom. Please know that we will be sharing all of the coping strategies that she shared with us today. We will also continue to provide you with information from the other experts as well. I just want to remind you all that After our conversation last week with Dr. Young, we asked community members to help the young people in our district who do not have laptops and smartphones and hotspots and other devices to connect to the remote distant learning program. We are in touch with District 16 and 17 about how best to distribute the donations that you all have pledged. I want to thank you all so much who have called. Our folks in Crown Heights, Deborah from the Crown Heights North Association, our friends at Weeksville, Anita Romero, who has pledged. We have a couple of our local judges also who have decided that they're going to help us out and donate an item for our young people to continue their learning. Stability, consistency, routine is so important in uncertain times. And we know that learning and learning something new and being connected with other people in a learning environment is something that is important to our good health and well-being. So we want to make sure that we do all that we can so we can continue that work. So next week, we will be back on Thursday, live from the source, which is the 23rd of April next week. And we will have special guests discussing how we can support our special needs students during this time. What does remote learning look like and feel to them during this global pandemic? Time of uncertainty with schools closed and they are disconnected from their therapists and their normal programming. And we will have resources for parents and just anybody in the community who wants to help out. Please stay tuned because this telecast is all about strengthening our community. So, Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights, thank you very much for joining in today. My name is Stefani Zinnerman. I am your candidate for the 56th Assembly District. Have a great weekend. Be safe, stay home, and be blessed.